Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today is a really fun and strange little painting that I have for you because I had this idea. I've done a bunch of Christmas cows, and there was one for the patrons. I wanted to get this one out. I started painting it, and then there was a break in the painting, and then I came back to it. So you will see a costume change. I'll be here, and then I'll go to another outfit, and then I'll be here again. But it for you will be sequentially in the timeline the same. So if you watch Doctor Who, you totally get how this works. It's okay. If you don't watch Doctor Who, you totally get how this works too. It's just going to be I'll be in this outfit once and then a blue shirt and then back in this outfit. But the sequence of the lesson is the same. Now I break these down step by step. Every element, every brush, every tool. I didn't really use that many. I think I used mostly these two through the whole painting, which was my 0D and my 6th round from the sepia. Just not a lot of, tools. The colors were simple. Everything was just a lot of fun to do. And this one goes with another painting that I have, the chickens. So if that sounds good to you and you want to do this and another painting, and I'm going to probably come up with some more fun barnyard in this kind of style so you can put the collection together, you're really going to love these. They're going to be whimsical. They're going to be fun. They're beginner friendly, easy to draw, but I don't expect you to because I provide a free traceable you can download from the website. Sometimes on the mic, you'll hear my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me record the lessons just like he helps me bring the live lessons to you. So, you will on occasion hear him, but I think this one was more of a step-by-step, like let's get the fun in. So I think you guys are going to like this. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back. I'm going to show you for real how you can paint this cow yourself at home. Today's surface is an 8x8 canvas because you know I love an 8x8. I've got the colors Cad Yellow Medium, Phthalo Green, Phthalo Blue, Cad Red Medium, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Sienna, Mars Black, Titanium White. All right. I think we need to hop on in to the first step. So I'm going to use the number 6 Raphael Sepia Round and black paint, and I'm going to sketch in the lines of my subject, the cow. So you would use the traceable if you're going to use the traceable at this point. It's in the description below.
You could find it there.
Could find it there. Don't have to use it, could use it. It's really up to you. So centrally in this piece, I'm going to add a nice little arc line. And then underneath it, kind of like a frown, a little bit longer than the top. And then I'll curl those around to meet up. And that'll be kind of my little nose here.
Get the cow nose framed in.
Get them count, because the whole head hangs off of the nose. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a little number 6 there. Kind of looks like a little number 6, and a little open number 6 for the nostrils. And then I'll do one of my tongues, which is generally 2 bumps.
See.
And then I kind of come around, and so this is gonna go with our chickens. Chickens. Singing chickens.
All cows for me are Ferdinand.
All cows for you are Ferdinand? I thought Ferdinand was a bull.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
We could get technical. Yes,
Ferdinand
was a boy cow.
No, he was a full bull cow.
Yeah, no, I know.
He was a full bull.
Like, I'm sure there's
technical. I'm going to do 2 little smiles here.
I do not know technical cow terms.
I'm
all cow
that.
For me.
They're all cow for you.
They're all cow for me.
So I'm making little kind of smiling eyes right here because those are going to go well on this particular character, but also because it will work with what we did with the chickens. So I'll go ahead and put a little center there. If you don't know what I'm referring to, we painted some adorable chickens that are in a similar style to this, and so you might enjoy that.
See, I know
bring a little neck down, shoulder.
Like boy chickens are roosters and girl chickens are hens, but they're all just chickens.
I'm going to sketch out loosely a little bit of the fur arcing across, and then on a parallel line, sketch out another series of lines that are S-curves, arcing across. Top of the hat line kind of angling up, over, down. And a little fold down, and then it's got that nice little sort of pocket fold right there. Little circle. And then let's add some little ears. And then a little neck coming down, kind of little shoulders going across. And then I may want to think a little bit about making some markings for the patterns because I can lose those pretty easily. What you want to do is just demonstrate that your black and white cow is in fact black and white, is generally what I find. And then we're going to do the black side of face, black side of face. So that's very good. And then we'll kind of run that in the ears. So if you're following along during the premiere, you will have either sketch this out and paint with me or use the traceable. And a little note on drawing, and then we'll come right back. Drawing is just a skill in art. It's a cool skill. It's a fun skill. I highly recommend learning the skill. But it isn't the only thing you have to do or the first thing you have to do to paint. There's nothing wrong with using a traceable. That is completely okay. When we come back, I'm going to show you what we, and you and me, John,
And you and me,
do next. Okay, I want to put a background in. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch angle brush. You could use a bright. The brush here isn't really important. Just that it's a nice brush you can paint the background with. I'm going to get this brush a little bit wet, tap it off on a paper towel, and load up some of my phthalo blue and a little of my titanium white. And I'm going to just brush up and down all of the negative space with this blue. Kind of covering it in. So it's one of those interesting things where I'll go into the line here a little bit too. I do that just so that when I paint fur, I can get lots of little delicate blue negative spaces through. So you will see me paint over my lines a little bit, just in case I have to adjust anything and make it bigger or smaller. Because while you come and you use the traceable in the time machine way that we do our lessons, and it's based on my drawing, my original drawing is just me drawing. So one of the hard things is when we do live, sometimes I will pre-paint the painting, and then I'll have a traceable that is made before the live stream based off of a reference or something, and then I go to paint it live. And of course, I'm not a Xerox machine, so there'll be minor differences in expression and stuff. So it's always fun when people will be like, "Oh, I noticed that your object looked exactly like the traceable this one time, but not exactly like the traceable this other time." And I'm like, "Yeah." Because one of them is pre-painted it, and one of them I didn't.
you're not like you're here just to teach this. You're not you're not here to
Well,
replicate it.
and that's the thing. Like the other thing is, while we do have a drive, and the reason I'm talking to you guys about this is I know, especially when I do these cute ones that pull a lot of people in, is that you guys will put a lot of pressure on yourself to make something exactly like mine. I will read these all the time. My brush strokes aren't the same as hers. My lines aren't the same. All the changes that are differences. You'll notice all the differences. But I just am trying to tell you, even I don't copy myself exactly like a photocopy machine from painting to painting, doing the same painting. And I'm me. So let's just know through this whole painting, I need you to really lean on this. Your job isn't to have a painting that is a photocopy rendering of mine. Your job is to have a good time painting a funny cow. Everything after that's just gravy. So, but don't tell the cow that because cows don't like gravy. All right, when we come back, I'll show you what you do next. We're going to do a second layer in this background here. And we're going to do that for a couple of reasons. One of the most important reasons is that paint can do a thing called color shift, or it can just look different than mine. I'm adding titanium white to my phthalo blue, making a lighter blue this time for the lower part of the painting. And now I am kind of thinking about my brush stroke and making vertical drag down brush strokes. But you're going to find that having an acrylic ground and then coming over with a second layer prevents that streaky unfinished look that can be really problematic for new artists. I'm adding a little more blue maybe up top, and you can see I'm going over it. Now I am kind of thinking about the brush strokes. I'm gonna add a little more white to some of this. And I'll just go till I'm pretty happy with the look of it. And I'm going to make it where I feel like I'm kind of dry brushing over with just a slightly lighter layer. I'm just doing it so I feel like the canvas is very fully covered and it's got a nice blue on it. And I like that there's some brush stroke and energy to it. Those are things that I'm into that appeal to me. And I know that no matter what paint you're using at home, when you're doing, you may have to do a couple of coats, and that gives you that nice finished look. Now let's dry everything thoroughly. So now we're going to work a little bit on the eyes and nose and tongue, not all in one step, but just as we're moving forward. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my white and a little bit of my black, and I'm going to make a light gray. And I'm going to do that for my eyes. I don't make a white for the whites of the eyes because I want to have room. I'm still using my number 6 round sepia brush, which you can find. John, would you like to tell them where they can find this fabulous brush?
In our store.
In our store?
You can get them there.
You can get them there. Do you have to get them there?
No, because you may not be someplace where you can buy from us, like in other countries or on the moon.
Do we still love them even if they don't
We
go to
do.
the store?
If you're stuck in orbit and you can't buy from our store,
we don't mind.
It's okay. But if you can, we really appreciate it.
So I'm just painting that gray. And they don't have to be. What's nice about these particular eyes is the expression is about exaggeration. I'm now going to rinse out thoroughly and load up just blue paint. And I may put my glasses on because I find sometimes I struggle to see the details these days. And I'm definitely going to give him, I think, blue eyes. Not because that's a realistic true cow thing, but because I think that will be pretty. And so I'm just doing the pure phthalo blue on the outside. And then what I will do is I'll come in and get a little bit of my green and phthalo blue together. And a lot of white. And you'll get a really distinctive kind of aqua. And I'm going to paint everything inside with that aqua. But you see it's like a shade lighter and a little more turquoise than the background. And that's how we make it feel different than the background. So if you're going to do an image like this and you've got a character and you want the eyes to be a similar color as the background as a tie-in, make sure that there's something about those eyes that, I don't know, you don't have to make sure, but a thing I like to do is to make sure that there's something about the eyes that's a little different than the background. So they're what's called readability. That's how easy it is for a viewer to interpret a painting, right? Like you guys always let me know if my readability is off because you'll ask questions about a painting where it's very clear that how I did it wasn't reading for you, like the fireman if he's running towards you or away from you, even though he's perfect, even though he's a great silhouette. And I could have done it on purpose. Sometimes we do as artists create silhouettes that flip, right? I didn't in that particular case create one intentionally flipped. He just did. And I know that that's why people were, asking me, is he running to us or away from us? So not a perfect circle, but you get the basic gist. And then here, I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and my yellow ochre. But it's still very Cad Red, if you'll see. Still very orange. And I'll just paint in the nose this color, just one layer of this color. And the reason I'm doing that is because this, like the background, just needs some depth. How you doing today, babe?
Good. We're watching a cow get painted.
Yeah, it's an important. I did a lot of really happy paintings this year, John, like silly, almost comical paintings because
Yeah.
it's been such an intense year for people and they're so tired. When you're online and you have a seroposial relationship, which is there's parasocial, which is the audience to the person. There's a relationship you have as a person to your audience, absolutely. And you will start to notice when your audience is having a hard time. I remember once I was in a conflict with somebody and I was trying to explain that my information was experiential, not just something I found online. Like I'm listening directly to people and this is what they're telling me they're experiencing. And that's why I feel this way, right? Because I am involved in y'all's lives and I do hear how you're doing. So it's kind of an interesting thing how, sometimes I might have you guys inform me on how I feel about a subject. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of just red, and we're going to just red the tongue right now. The tongue will have shading and all those things, but we'll get there in a minute.
I like the tongue, so that's what made me think of. Um, Now I've drawn a blank on the bull that I was speaking about.
Ferdinand?
Ferdinand, yeah.
Nah, I was just letting you have that blank moment.
That's okay.
Aren't I kind?
Very cad ready. Very cad red.
Very Cad Red. I'm going to just take Mars Black and come in here. Still my number 6 round. A lot of times in painting, I could probably have done most of this whole painting with the angle brush. But that does take a little bit of skill to start to get to the place where you're like, oh, I can paint with any painting. With any brush. Takes a second. And now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, you might need another layer. And it's okay sometimes to have black lining. Black lining is where you have that like strong outline on a painting around objects. You don't do it in realistic painting because it will flatten an object, but you do it in this type of painting or decorative painting or outsider art. You can, because there's no rules there, so you get to do everything. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of a pupil here. This, more than anything, will probably help him feel like he goes with the chickens.
Little crazy going on in the eyes.
Yeah, well, I think we'll go through the whole barn, I'm sure, at some point. No, and he cute. All right, guys, let's take a deep breath. You are doing good. You are okay. When we come back, we're going to continue on. I want you to love your cow and yourself until we start painting again. So now I am going to switch up brushes a little bit, and that's just because it's convenient for me, and I'm going to use the Zero Raphael Artney D brush. You could use a filbert or a braid or a 1/4 inch angle. I'm just looking for something that will fit in all the places that I have to go, will allow me to blend on that one brush and get an edged line and a fluffy line. You'll see that this brush does all those things fairly well. I'm going to go ahead and get it a little bit wet. Get some black out, a little blue into that black. That was a little bit of my phthalo blue. And I'll go ahead and add white to create a very, very light gray. Everywhere that my cow
Went. The,
went, everywhere the cow would be white,
everywhere the
I'm
cow
gonna
went,
go ahead and add this light gray.
the chicken was sure to follow.
And the chicken was sure to something. Now, some black lining I may put back. Right now, what I'm trying to do is just paint some cow. And come here. I'm actually pretty, you can see I'm actually pretty scribbly when I come between the, I go over my lines again. But where I have to go around the muzzle, I may turn so it's gray, not white. And the reason that it's gray, not white, is that gives me a base to build up from. And so I can very easily, through simple to do techniques, get quite a lot done. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my black here. And I'm going to come under my little lip, and you'll notice that I'm adding a little bit of a darker color. This is not a black line. This becomes a slightly darker gray line and a subtle separation between the background and the lip happens. You may have to come back and add a line, but don't worry. So funny, like when I'm thinking in a painting, but don't worry when you don't need to. Now I'm also going to come here and say, the outside of my little ear line a little bit fuzzy, and I only have to take it to there because a lot of this is covered. And I know some of my ear goes off the surface. Now I'm able to do that because I can still see my black paint line.
Because you can see it through a little bit.
I can see through my paint to my black line, so I'm not having to imagine where it was.
Yep.
If you have painted out your black line where you can't see it at all through the paint, then you might have to use a little chalk and resketch it back in or use a traceable to help you find it again. Nothing wrong with that though. This is just a little bit of a light fur that will be kind of peeking out. I'm going to also come along here. Don't worry that you're painting out these lines though. We're going to put them back. All right, how they layer, you don't have to worry about it at all. And I'm going to come right here and just put that little ball back. So you see that there's a little ball, there's all of that. Rinse out. When we come back, I'm going to show you the next step. And what is your wild cow? You're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's so cute at the end. It's okay for you to fast forward and check that it comes out and then come back and continue painting. I don't mind. I completely understand it. I'll see you in a second. I'm going to continue on with my D brush. And again, remember, it doesn't have to be this brush. It's just a brush I like. I'm going to take my red paint and a smidge of my black. And I'm going to make a slightly darker red that is almost the color of a brick. Using the edge of my brush, I'll create a nice sharp line coming along the edge of the hat. But where the fur goes over the hat, I will brush back. And you can see that creates a soft line. So sometimes the line's edge, right, like here would be a edge line, and right there is an edge line. You can see that just gets that right there, and that is looking really good. I may even, while I'm here, kind of take a little bit of this slightly darker red to my tongue down here. Kind of paint another layer. So that is Mars Black and Cad Red, and when you use those together, you get a slightly darker red. That's just a nice thing you can do. I'm going to rinse out my brush because I don't want any red for the next part. And go ahead and take a little bit of black. And I'm going to come inside where I drew those interesting little cow markings and make some fun little kind of cow marking. Cow. We used to have these cows. Do you remember that Oreo cows on the way to Renaissance Festival,
man,
John?
do I remember those Oreo cows?
Man,
They were the sign you're getting close.
they were the sign that
walking.
you were getting close, and just when you just wanted to give up on being like a Ren Fair person, every time you'd see the cows, the Oreo cows, and you'd be like, the Oreo cows! And then the guy who had them moved them, and I have to tell you, it honestly affected the drive. I think I enjoyed the drive 30% less. Yeah, I thought about it that much. How much I enjoyed the drive better because there were the Oreo cows. I love those Oreo cows. My friend Poupée loved those Oreo cows. And they look just like Oreos. Just made you want to drink milk and eat cookies. So cute. Internet, what is the name of the Oreo cows? Because they have a really special name. There's also a sheep that looks like the Oreo cows that's like an Oreo sheep or something. Or it has like some similar elements. I don't know. That was a late night watching sheep. So every once in a while, and I'm not allowed to do it on John's account anymore because apparently it makes the algorithm be crazy. But sometimes when I have insomnia, I fall down really weird online internet show things, but not like scary things. You know how like your aunts and uncles and parents like all fell into some weird internet cult just recently. Not like that. More like a show hole where I'm like, for some reason, I decide that watching sheep being shorn in an ASMR style presentation.
You knocked your mic off.
Did I?
You just did. You just whacked the mic.
Being shorn. Sheep being shorn got me so excited.
You were excited. You were
so
animatedly talking. And
it isn't
what
live,
happened?
but it's real. I'm a real person. Not a professional show that has been like created for you by an art store or any of that. I'm just a me in my house painting some stuff. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add a little drop of water to that. And then do the same thing up here. I haven't decided if I want how like symmetrical or anything I would want these markings. And again, we're just early doing them. I'm going to have to put my eyes back because I'm not using the edge of my brush. So you see what I mean about size is important. Size does matter in some way. Fluff, fluff, fluff. But I don't hide my painting having these little experiences. And the reason that I don't, I'm going to go ahead and fluff that ear as well off the edge. Yeah. And come here and get a little bit of my burnt sienna. There you go. It's this brown and black, then the little fringes. But you won't see it till it's really like all the way finished. Come over to the other side. I rinse my brush out and I'll do some black again. I don't know. What's your thoughts, John?
You know, I don't know. I don't know that I have thoughts on that.
You don't have thoughts on this?
No. I think it's cow's looking cool though.
This cow is looking cool.
The dark.
Cow is looking so cool.
Which black is that?
Mars black.
Mars black gets so dark.
It does. Well, it has a nice matte dry, and it has a fairly high pigment load, and so because of that, it is really a wonderful black. Back when all we had was ivory, or lamp black. That's lamp black is soot. So that's how you get that. And then ivory is exactly how you think burnt bones. And so, and brush companies don't kill animals to make brushes or pigments, or with the exception of maybe like the bug pigment. There's a couple colors, but they're not very light fast. So there's this whole thing that there is animal products in art products, but they're not sourced for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I'm going to come in with my brown again and just kind of brush this out. I don't want to do the whole ear. I'm just creating some dimensionality in the fur. Look at that. So he could not look more roughly painted, more like white. And if you're with me right now and you haven't gone to the end and you don't know where it ends up, and you're painting on your painting and you're learning, you might find that this is a very upsetting stage of the painting. And what I want to tell you is acrylic paintings, for the most part, always go through an ugly stage. I know I have a lot of first time painters here with me today. And you might be thinking, oh, well, she has to say that. No, like seriously, I've been doing this. Like, look, 700,000 subscribers. I don't know, 100 million views, some crazy number like that. People have given me feedback. I'm going to tell you that this is super normal for you to feel uncomfortable with your painting right now. And I want you to take a deep breath with me and remind yourself what your only job was that we gave you at the beginning of the painting, which is just to have a great time. Have a fun time painting your Christmas cow. So deep breath. Know it's going to be okay in the end. And you know that it's not the end if you're not feeling it's okay. So it's not the end yet. Let's come back and start bringing this beauty out of the painting. Now that I'm looking at this, and again, you have to understand this is my original design. That I just freehanded out from an idea that I've been kind of noodling. I see that this side is a little bit longer than this side, and I want them to be the same. So I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad Red and my yellow ochre again, and a little white. And I'm just going to try to cover that area and extend it out a little further. And that'll happen when you're painting. You'll mess up the traceable, or some element of your art process will be different than you expect. You need to move a line over. Is that something you even noticed? Maybe yes, maybe no. Depends on where you're at on knowing how to listen to your brain about your art projects. All right, but my brain was like, hey! So that's what I'm doing there. That's with my number 6. I'm going to come and work on the eyes again a little bit. Now I'm going to come in and make a much lighter gray. Maybe even add a little bit of my yellow ochre to it. Paint carefully around my eye. And let this expression be big. You're not going to be sorry that you made it big. You are not. So that color again was a light gray, and I added a little yellow ochre to it, just to kind of warm it. You won't see it on the canvas. You will see it easier on your palette, but overall, in relationship to the other things that are there, it's going to make a difference in how it comes out. So a lot of times I'm looking at what can I exaggerate and how much should I exaggerate. Like I just put some white under there and I'm trying to see, do I want the black up over the part of the eye? And I probably will put it back there. And I'll do that at the end. You'll see how I do that's interesting. And in art, sometimes you will move a line forwards and backwards, just depending on what you need out of it. Go ahead and take a little bit of my Cad Red here, and let's add a little white. And some of this can be a little darker, and it goes to a little bit lighter. So let's come here. On the outside of that tongue, kind of use the slightly lightened Had red, and I'm going to just sort of brush this back. Brush, 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 brush. And I don't mind. I leave a little bit of that darker red back there. I want to come back with a little bit of that darker red. And brush that forward into the tongue. And you can see the brushing the light color back in and the darker color forward. It's just another way of blending what you've got. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my red and my black again. A little bit of red. And it's just a little bit heavier on the base of the tongue, almost like a teardrop, and it comes back. And it's kind of like a teardrop. It's just, and it should be subtle. It shouldn't be something that you're like, whoa, whoa, what's happening there? You know, so try to keep it, you know, subtle and balanced. I'm adding a little black back into the mouth. A lot of times when you're painting with any black paint, but especially with acrylic back paint, if the surface doesn't completely cover the little white spots that show, end up being visually disruptive. I'm going to come through the tongue and let that kind of be that deep shadow. Okay. I feel like I overlined on that far side, so I'm going to take a clean brush and kind of remove some of that. With acrylic, you do have a small amount of time that you can change your mind about things. It can be staining on paper, and so sometimes on paper you get real stuck with something. But here you'll find that you can change your mind about quite a lot. Do you know what's weird, John? Earlier today when I painted,
Earlier today when you painted.
I could not get anything to dry.
Hmm.
And now I can't get it to stop drying. So it's funny how that is. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's just take some blue paint and go around the eye with the pure blue, phthalo blue. But what's big here is the dark color. As round as you can make it, my friend. Don't worry about having to be perfect, but as round as you can make it, I think. All right, and then quite a lot more blue. And if you remember what this color was, phthalo blue, phthalo green, titanium white is what makes this lovely, lovely, lovely turquoise color.
I like the blue eyes.
I do too. It's worth it. I'm just painting very carefully. You know, you may be able to paint more carefully than me, or you may really struggle with your careful lines. Guess what? It's not a universal thing, and nobody expects it to be in art. That's something that actually artists really understand, the art world really understands. That there's just a really big difference between how we all might relate to line. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to come here on the eye, and at the top kind of I'm just using just white there. I'm leaving some of the gray, so it's just sort of shaded. I'm going to look at my chickens real quick and make sure I am getting there. All right, I'm going to take a little of my white into my turquoise color. I'm going to add a little yellow. And on the lower half of the eye, I will make a little C. Lower half of the eye, I'm going to make a little C. I don't paint out all the blue. Here we go, just a little bit of a C. All right, let's call it step. That was really good work, guys. You got a whole bunch of stuff done. Let's dry everything and we'll come back. I'm going to show you what you do next. We're fabulous. Let's work on our hat for a second. I'm going to go back to my D-brush just because it's convenient and I used it there earlier. And I'm going to take a little bit of my red down to my black and I'm going to make a very dark red. Right? It still reads as red, but it's very deepened by the dark paint, by the black paint. And I'm going to come here to the bend in my hat and I'm going to very carefully shade that crease. Right, I've added black to the red. I'm shading that crease. Now I'm going to come here and get a lot more red on my brush, but I haven't really rinsed it, so there's a little, maybe there could be a little black in there. I do that sometimes as an artist, and I can tell you a lot of artists do that because we have all learned the magic of carrying a little bit of color through when you're working on something because it gives you some forgiveness in getting a blend.
Blending forgiveness. That's what the holidays is all about.
That is exactly what the season is about, is blending forgiveness. Nothing else. Oh, please don't write me in all seriousness being upset about that. I am just kidding. Oh, you forget. Can't have a sense of humor and be online. It's not allowed. Except we do it anyways. I'm going to just get a little bit of that gray right there.
Carry on.
Huh?
We will carry on.
Well, I think that's what we're going to do, is we are going to just carry on. So you can see I've just shaded it. Now I'm going to come in and get a lot more black. And I'm adding little marks. See, there's a little shape there to be a fold, and there's a little fold here. And a little bit of a fold here. This is just the shading to it, so that when we go to add interest to the hat, there's something there for it to be like, oh, well, that's multitonal. That's totally fine. Okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of my white, and I'll go ahead and get a little yellow ochre in it. Sometimes I like to get a little color, like I get a little ochre, or I get a little blue, or just some color so that the white is off-white. And I'm still doing the D-brush, and I'm just pushing that up, and that is clearly making the fluff. And I don't mind that it picks up a little bit of the red, actually. The reason is that actually, I feel, creates some wonderful painterly yumminess where it's not just boring and spelled out for you. You, the viewer, still have some room.
Yeah. Some interpretive dance, as it were.
Some interpretive dance, as it were. I'll come around here and just start to fluff that. You know, maybe get a little brown and a little yellow, and a little brown, and a little yellow, and kind of on the bottom here, shade it. Right? I just made it slightly darker. Okay. And come through and get some white over here into my just gray. From the cow earlier. That was the Mars Black and the Phthalo Blue from earlier. I'm just adding some water to the brush and the paint so that it works a little better is all, really. I'm going to come here and brush this in a circle. I will let some of that gray show through. And then coming down the face. This isn't the only time I'm going to do this. But I'm just trying to show that it's a little bit like fur. And I'll bring a little white through there. I'll go ahead and grab a little bit on here and come onto my ears. And I'm just very lightly flicking that out, letting some of the dark show through. That's what helps the painting, you know, develop. Over that is pretty fantastic. Now, come right here and brush out a little bit of that. That's fun. Like he's got a little bit of a fuzzy chin. Now I might come back and only lightly, like, so what I'm doing here, and I don't know if John can get up in on it close, is I'm using very little pressure. I have a light load of paint, and I'm going over where I made my shadow, but I'm only lightly pulling that color back so that some of that shading is still present under that chin, and that helps create that subtle difference. That can be hard when you're new, but if you know that's what you're supposed to do, you absolutely can do it. So it's just about light pressure and just being very careful. And come through here, and I'm going to be a little bit flicking with my brush, and that implies a little bit of fur, doesn't it? You know, sometimes I might let it be a little more gray because I'm under him and the light is blocked, and he might have a little bit of shading under his neck. That is looking quite good. Quite silly, but quite good. Okay, now I'm going to come through and let's call this a new step and come back. So we're not doing too much in a single step. Okay, so I'm going to continue out here. I'm going to use my D brush. I'm going to get my burnt sienna and maybe even a little of my cad red kind of together. It's sort of weird. And then let's get some white involved. Now I'm going to come from what would be, oh gosh, like the part of the ear canal. I'm going to brush that forward. I'm going to come from here and kind of brush that forward. Just a little bit. It's kind of like a browny pink. Rinse out. Wipe my brush off with my towel. Come back with some brown. Just a little bit. And then go over with my black. Just a little bit of like fun ear stuff. It's just not serious. All right, let's fill that little line in there. And sometimes what I'll do is where I flicked into the black fur, then I'll come back out flicking the black fur over the white. And what that will eventually do is create a sense of layering. And those little soft edges do imply that it is fur. You having fun with this, babe? I
I'm having a
sometimes
lot of fun with
I
this.
think sometimes I wonder like when we do these like what people at home think. What do you guys at home think of this funny, weird little painting? Now I will have to get back into here with my detail brush in a second, but you can see how I use the black to go back in where the white fur was and to imply fur the opposite direction. So it's about those feathery little lines, isn't it? Isn't that just wonderful? Okay, and then once that's all in, then I can come back with white, just white. And come on the outer edge of that little lip there. A little loosely here and there. And you can see that that kind of builds up some of this for the cutie patootie. Doing the radial brush stroke around that center. And then on these, I do tend to curl the brush stroke. And I let the brush make the little fluffy bit, and that really is quite nice, I think.
I think it's quite nice too.
Maybe a little more fluffy and lighter over here. And then let's and I get this brown and black and white to kind of create this dark fur. And we're going to just come down here and make sure that our puffball has a bit of shading and maybe a little bit here. You'll notice I can even get a little bit wet. Right, where there's a little shading to it, and then you come back with maybe a little pure white out here on the little cow ears. And oh, you okay, babe?
Yep, just knocked a remote on the
You
ground.
just yeeted that right away. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty perfect. Let's dry everything, and then I will fully show you what you do next. Look at this cutie patootie come in. Now, at this stage, I'm far enough in the painting and everything is dry enough that I can get my chalk out. And I'm going to draw a line that comes from the left behind the ear, winds up, loops over, comes down far, loops back, comes behind this ear, loops in front and over. Then every so often, and what I'll do is I will draw a couple of my first ones. I'm going to make the shape of Christmas lights, which is that teardrop and now what would you call that shape? It's teardrop shape, don't you think, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like to kind of think about where they go and how I place them. Like I wouldn't want one to go right over his eye. I didn't know if we were going to do this part of it, John, but then I just
But
thought,
now you know.
now I know. Well, I mean, the truth is,
Knowing is half the battle.
knowing is half the battle, John. It is. That's a true story.
You know what the other half battle is?
What is the other half of the battle?
Red and
Trying
blue
to get me to
lasers.
remember.
It's red and blue lasers.
Why is that the other half of the battle? I don't know that reference.
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe had red and blue lasers?
Well, yeah,
Why?
because that's how you could see that the the fire going back and forth. Yeah,
Well,
then didn't like in G.I. Joe nobody died. Like if the aircraft got blown up, everybody parachuted out, or somebody's gun blew up. Nobody ever died. It was like
yeah.
a big deal. Like when Duke got it,
Yeah?
Mr. Pintor, it was a big deal. Like
It was a big deal. So I'm just thinking about the placement. Now, you guys will have the placement. You guys can even second guess my placement when you get there because I put one kind of, that's just visually confusing, right? So, but I can put one right there and it's not. And I think if if it goes off this way, it still comes in front of the ear cord-wise. And I still think that makes an interesting spot over here. So I'm going to find out. I'm going to take some black paint and my round brush. I'm swirling around. I might even get some blue involved. Sometimes when I add blue to my black, it makes it appear darker. It's not, but it appears that way. So sometimes when you're painting, you're fighting this experience of creative fatigue, where your brain has just been going at it, and you know you need to do another thing to get the artwork where it needs to go, but you're just tired. If you're there, it is better not to power through your art, but to finish it on another day. Now, for the lights, one of the things that I will do is I'm going to kind of lightly sketch them out in white. And that is one just so that I can have very vibrant color. It's a dry brush, so I'm not that worried. It doesn't have to be perfectly white. It's just lightening the area, and it is helping me see where these guys are at. So all you have to do is take this through this whole area. Enjoy the journey. So that's what I'm doing here, is just sort of sketching those in. You know. I think Stranger Things and the nostalgia of it brought twinkle lights back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a belief that I have. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure I like the positioning of these colors because, yeah, it's a set of Christmas bulbs for sure. For sure. And you will have your Christmas bulbs, your whole painting, because sometimes, even though it's my imagination, I don't always know, like, where I'm going when I start. Does that make sense? Even though it's my imagination, I don't always know. John sometimes will be like, "How long is this going to be?" And I just look at him like he has just lost his mind.
What do you mean?
When you'll be like, "How long will this be?" And I'm like,
Oh, I don't
"I
know.
painted it before. I don't know."
I don't know how long it's going to be. Could be 1,000,000 hours. Could be 1 hour. We don't know.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think something. Sometimes I don't often really misassess my painting
Don't you
estimations.
misassess me.
But every once in a while, I will miss it hardcore.
Like, it's going to be a one hoot.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours later.
3 hours later. You just fully SpongeBobbed it. Oh, that's looking pretty good. Now, I also, if I do this, um, I will want the colors to be bright. So I'm going to take my little brush here, and I am going to just lightly brush inside where my lights are.
That'll make the lights have a nice consistent brightness, huh?
Yeah, it will help with the color reading as vibrant as it is. And so, especially with you guys painting at home with me, and the reason being so you know why I did this in case you need to do it when you're not painting with me, um, is that if you've got student paint, transparent paint, inexpensive paint, you need to paint vibrant areas white first if you want them to read as super saturated, and change your water a bunch. Um, like if your water is bright purple, you got to change it before you paint with yellow. The other thing that sometimes people don't understand is that just because you're painting something that's cute and funny and has a cartoon feel, that it doesn't require serious techniques to place in. Of course it does. Illustration is as hard to do as traditional fine art painting.
Everything has its own requirement.
So I've been doing a bunch of painting just from like my own mind lately with you guys. Hopefully you guys are checking out those You Choose We Paint shows. If you haven't, be sure and do one. You know, we're doing them right now, but who knows, 2024. So it's Kevin who's back, our fun friends are back. We're doing the hysterical after paints, all the fun stuff. So be sure and check those out to balance out your pre-recorded. I don't know, what do you want to call this? A tight show? An edited show? What do you? I don't know.
It's they're just ones that we can do like when it's not normal live time, and then we can have a chance to edit them together and make them available for people. So it's another way if we can get the videos out.
I think it's a good way to do it too. I like to balance both. I think they each have their own learning moment. Well, that was a pretty complicated thing to lay in,
They're
and
not
yet here we
all
are
the little
doing this
light bulbs there.
gorgeous painting.
Yeah.
To do anything else, he will need to be dry.
Try him.
Dry, 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 dry. Hey, so one of the funny things that happens sometimes when we're recording lessons is that, we got to have a teacher's conference or we got to go game or something comes along that means I have to stop in the middle of filming and then life happens some more and then a significant amount of time goes by. So I'm going to have different hair and different clothes for the rest of the lesson. And that's really because I had to stop and start back up again. But for you, it's all in one continuous sequence, which is always fun for John and I. So I asked John to make me big so I could explain the change. And we'll go back over where I have the paint on the palette again and then just continue on in the step. So I put the phthalo green here, phthalo blue, cad yellow medium, cad red medium, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, Mars black, and titanium white. And we were going to be going on step 11. I'm going to grab my handy dandy D brush again. I'm going to get a little bit wet. And let's start maybe thinking about the nose some. So I'm going to grab a little of my yellow ochre and my cad red. And I want something a little pink and a little bit rosy. And I'm going to get my white involved. It's just going to make it a nice little cute, kissable little cow nose. My kids call cows grass puppies. I think is super funny. I'm going to just bring this down. Just using the D brush because it's just out and I've already got it, ready to go. And why not? The second layer really is about pinking up the nose. Starting to create a little depth into it. I can go a lot more white. Go up over the top of the nose with the white. I'll be kind of replacing in the nostrils. A little more pink in there. And now if I get my burnt sienna involved in all of this, I can kind of get a slightly darker little nose color involved. Just little curled strokes. I'm going to rinse that out for sure, and then I'm going to pick up my round brush. Now, this is my sepia round again. I'm going to go ahead and get my black involved, and interestingly enough, I'm going to take my Cad Red over to my black because these two actually work together quite well to make an interesting range of browns. And I'm going to open up and kind of expand the nostrils a little bit. Kind of want them to be a little more, comical. I'm going to kind of curl that brush stroke back. It's fun to keep these things sort of entertaining. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my brush at the bottom. This paint is still wet, and because this paint is still wet, I can still blend. I could also come here and blend from my wet paint, creating halftones. I want the lower part of the mouth to be darker. That's all, like in shadow. You can see I'm just using the brush to blend out the paint. Just starting to create a little sense of that drama right there. We need a little cow drama. A little more black in my red this time. I'll come right here. It's fun how even when you're new to painting, you can do a lot as a beginner and get a lot done. That's quite good. A little more red. I like that very, very much. Okay, let's give that a little bit of a stop or resting point. And I'm going to come here and I think get back into my eyes with my round. Can I have a new stepser? I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my black and my phthalo blue together. And carefully come around my eye. And then I'm going to carefully come around my eye. And that's going to be like, that's wet black paint on dry black paint, which is fairly invisible. But what I found is if I do that, when I come in with my white, if the paint underneath is just a little bit also wet, it gives me just a slightly better result. Just a little more exaggeration on the eyes is always fun for me. And if I want to make a little shading and come back with my darkest color. So it's, not too hard to nudge. It needs some nudge, but it's not too hard to nudge. And sometimes it's nice to give it a little extra accent on that eye, right? I'm going to take my pure white and my round again, and I'm going to come to the top of the eye and kind of just make sure that that's brighter. And add a little reflection in the interior of the eye right there, which I like rather much. And go ahead and get into my black again, and I'm going to come down towards my nostrils, and that's just to, really think about how can I create some more interesting effect with these. I am deepening the inside. Snifter. You got to be nice to the snifter. I'm going to come around with a black line there just to sort of clean up and help improve the look of, elements like the nose or the eyes. I'm going to come here and grab a little bit of Cad Red and white. How you doing today, babe? So it's been a minute since we painted this, and that's always really hard. And like trying to remember where you were at on a project, I think. I've added a little red and white together, and I'm putting a little reflection on the tongue because I think that that's going to look super cute. Come in here, and I'm also going to add a little reflection with little strokes. This is just white paint, and I'm adding tiny little brush strokes kind of there, and I'll blend it out. Bring a little shiny reflection at the top. And then another little one at the bottom, but I don't want it totally white. I think it needs to be light, but not white. So that's why I put it on. So there we go. A little light, but not white. There we go. Very, 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 very good. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, let's give us another step. This is a good time to look around and go, am I happy with how everything looks? So I'm going to take my D brush again and my black and my blue. And I'm going to make sure this canvas, well, it is just back in black. You heard it in your head. You know it came. I'm just making sure that our colors are good. This is a good time to do that. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and bring some white over there and a smidge. So it's much lighter than the background, but it's not, pure white. And take another little circle around the nose. A couple little more blends out there. It's just fluffinating. Sometimes you get a fluffinate. Come through here and make sure I got lots of fluffinating. Oh, I like it. It's looking good. I think I am going to come in and grab even a lighter gray. Kind of come underneath the eyes like that. Just to exaggerate that moment, I think. You can always come back with a darker color. And you can see sort of thin that out. I'm going to use a little highlight here. Not all the way around. Partial. See how that's partial? That's going to create some exaggerations that are going to be really interesting for the viewer. And you always love to play with those. They'll always give back lots. Let's get some pure white. Okay, now when we come back, we are going to do our Christmas bulbs. Now, there's a lot to do with the bulbs, but the first thing I want to do is sort of think about the colors, and I think I'm going to do a yellow, red, and green. So I think that one will be yellow. I think that one will be yellow, and that'll be red, and that'll be green. But I don't think I'm going to do yellow here again, so I'll come here and do a yellow. All right. So I've got yellow here, yellow here, yellow here, and yellow here. I like that spacing. I haven't done so much that I couldn't change my mind. Come up here and go right here. There's where my reds are going to go. Red, 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 red. And 3 greens. And now that I know where those colors are, I can do some of my little effects and extra painting. So I'm going to take my D brush again. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my yellow and red. And very carefully around the bulb, I'm going to kind of paint a little radial out of light. A little bit over. Got some nice glows. Rinse out. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Now, interestingly enough, to do yellow, I find that I just have to dry brush first white. There's just no way around it to have the color be vibrant. You can see it's a dry brush. I'm not applying thick layers of paint. I need the paint underneath to show through or it won't look like glowing light. I also tend to like to leave a little space through here as I'm going around just because I think it helps me. Now I'm going to take my yellow down here to my green. And see if there's enough there. A little more yellow in the green, I think that one. That is looking pretty darn good. So now I got these little messy glows, and they can feel a little messy too. That's all right. Now I'm going to take my yellow, maybe a little white. Look at that, just curling that around. Super nice. Sometimes I'll come back with a little brighter orange though, just to make sure that it's not visually too boring. Oh, it's looking pretty good. All right, let's rinse this out. We're going to call this a new step, and we're going to paint inside the bulbs now. Okay. First, I'll go through and I'm going to just paint my bulbs the colors that they are. Start with my Cad Red and my round brush. And I'm just going to try to paint them in. Now, I could have left out a little bit of light in the center of the bulb, but I'll come and put that back in. I like just painting them in calmly. All right, let's do some green. Now on the green, I do mix my yellow and phthalo green together, and that's just because phthalo green can be dark. And we're going to want these to feel like lit up Christmas bulbs that are green. So we'll start even in our first color with a slightly lighter green. And kind of did these in the style of old vintage Christmas bulbs because I just felt like, well, I was in the mood for them. My goodness, I might sneeze in a second.
Sneezes happen.
They do, but it's not for sure happening. That's the annoying thing about it right now. It says, I might be a sneeze. And then it goes, nah, maybe I won't. And then it goes, no, it might be a sneeze. And I'm like, dude. I gotta keep remembering. So I think this seat leans me. The extra height one, even more than I'm prone to. I mean, I'm absolutely prone to a lean, but I think it's making me proner. Total word, right? real word. Very much like putting in that yellow, and then we'll put that yellow in up here. And those are looking pretty good. Now, to do the next part, I do want need all of this to be dry. So let's dry everything thoroughly. When we come back, I'll show you what you do next. So for this next part, I need to create a glow inside the bulb. I want to continue the radial, and I need to sort of connect them to our cable. I will begin with my blue and my black. I'm taking my Phthalo Blue to my Mars Black. I'm going to come right here. And just make little attachers. Doesn't have to make total sense. I just find like a little bit does a lot. I do sometimes come across the top. These are just little painted bulbs. It's been our strange up and down holiday this year, and this cow has been of great joy to me.
He's very cowy.
He's so cowy and he's so cute, and I really needed cow and cute so badly lately. So he's been a great little source of imaginative comfort. It's weird when you do start a painting and then you have to like wait a second to keep going. Now I'm going to go ahead and thin. I'm going to take some water over to my blue and gray from earlier, making a light gray. And I'm going to use some of that to help me create dimensionality. See, I can come here and add a little highlight and a little highlight. Little highlights on the cables are okay too. Forgot to add its top, but I'll come back and get it after I've done the highlights. Come back to that green one I missed from earlier. That'll happen. Sometimes you just be going and your little brain will be like, I didn't see it. You'll get to a whole end of a painting, sign it and everything, and then have to go back and paint a whole big segment. It happens to me live all the time. Like, I'm not even making this up. You can see it happen to me live. I will get to the end and everyone will be like, but the eyebrows. It won't even be something small. It'll be something like, wow, how did my brain miss that? But what happens is there's a type of creative fatigue that comes in. And a lot of times when we're hyper focused, we don't really feel how tired our brains are, how hard they've been working. And that's one of those subtle indicators that things may need a little more of our attention than we're giving them. I'm loading back up with some Cad Red, and I'm going to come to the outside of this and kind of bring that in. Just make sure it's got a nice coverage. And then let's add some yellow to the brush and come right in the center of that bulb. And I may actually do this the kind of might come here and do that here and then bring the red back in maybe after. So this is my yellow and red. It looks just yellow on the bulb, but it's really just a very light orange. And I just come back through and paint in the red. And I'm going to do this for every bulb, creating that glow on the inside that gives that sense that there's light. Kind of see me going in there and blending out a little light. I may even come in with my little D-brush because it's a good blender. That's what we're doing, just creating that little bit of contrasting. Contrasting. Now, interestingly enough, for the yellow bulbs, I'll come in with a little yellow white and then back with yellow. So I'm going to come down the center, a little yellow white. You can see I'm just smudging. Total technique. Someday I'm going to be long gone. I guess people will be debating about whether they liked me as an artist or not. Enjoy yourselves. By the way, I don't care. I have fun. I'm having a great time.
This greatly.
You enjoy you, I do me, right? To the future people who come back and I guess evaluate the sons of time.
I imagine that AI will be evaluating what people evaluate in the future.
The AI loves me. So, anyways, it does.
We love the AI.
Well, I don't know how I feel about it yet.
So far, it's been useful and nice.
I'm going to take a wait and see approach. I've been a human for a while. I've been living with these other people for a second. These billions of people that have been here, I've been living with them for a second. And what I've learned is that my neighbors here on planet Earth are a little reactionary. They jump the gun. So I like to give them a minute to figure things out for a second. But I think it's going to be okay. That's me. What's your zone? I'm grabbing just pure yellow now. And we're going to paint around all that white that I put in the center. What's your feeling, John?
Yeah, similarly, wait and see.
He watches everything.
Watch everything.
Watches everything. He wants to know. He wants to know if we need to start growing food now. It's fun.
No, I figure that there's it's an A/B scenario. We don't need to prepare because there's nothing we could prepare for.
And so we must keep painting Christmas cows.
That's right. We just keep doing what we're doing.
Must keep painting Christmas cows for Star Trek. I'm fine. Look, it's been a weird holiday. There's just been so many crazy things going on.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to keep with this yellow, and interestingly enough, I'm going to come back inside my red while I'm here. Kind of highlighting just a little. Just so it's just a little brighter there and, kind of thought out, more considered. And then I'm going to want to I think I'll start with my green and yellow first. And then come back with a darker green. You can see I kind of curl the brush. It's my nudge. Nudge, 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 nudge. Nudge, 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 nudge. I like to just kind of improve the color and everything in the bulbs. I mean, I guess we can just paint them in one layer and then just do a little highlight on them, but it's not cute. No, it's actually just fine. It doesn't matter how you finish them. I don't want to confuse you there. You're like, wait, really? Is that a thing? No, it's not a thing. Doesn't matter. Because none of it is important. Just you are important. That's what's important right now. Just know that. In this painting moment,
just
this... You. But you matter. Mm-hmm. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to come and get a little of my, interestingly enough, black on my brush. And I'm going to very carefully come through. Do the finest line I can swing out of this brush possible around my bulb. And that's just going to help it pop from the background. Yeah, it's just making a little more definition. That one looks like a chili pepper now. Of course, I just recently painted a very caffeinated koala.
That's all right.
Right? So now it's going to be like, why are your roosters so angry? Why are cows so crazy? And why is your koala so caffeinated? What's going on? This is going on. This is what my world looks like. This is my mood. What's your friend? He like posts some mood. He posts pictures of his mood.
Oh yeah,
I want to
Sam.
do that, but I didn't want to be all copy. But I was
No,
like,
I think
it's
it's
kind of
good.
fun
I
because
don't.
like all of my paintings are kind of a mood. Let's be honest. How is Sherpa doing? This is how I'm doing. I painted. I put it right there. Very honestly. It's wild. Being online for 10 years, which we're coming up, I think, on our 10-year anniversary.
I think we made.
Next year is our
I
10-year
think.
anniversary.
Okay. Yeah.
I think. I think we were 2014 Christmas.
It could be.
It might be this year. I'll let you guys know. I'll look at the video. It might be this year's our 10-year or next year's our 10-year. Look, we're just the same at remembering our own anniversary as YouTube anniversaries. Maybe YouTube will tell me. Sometimes the dashboards like let you know things like, woo, you got a lot of subscribers, or yay, everybody thought this painting was really good. Sometimes it lets you know bummer things like, man, that last thing you did, people are not into it. You shouldn't do it again. That's rough feedback. It's getting to be a little bit like the Wii. Do you guys remember the early days of the Wii when it would be like really critical of you
The
and your
game
interaction
console.
with
Yeah.
it? Hmm?
The game console.
The game console.
Yeah.
The game console, the Wii. Thank you. Partner translator.
Well, I just.
He speaks me.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I did a whole thing and went,
A
like the
Nintendo.
tree, right? And he goes, yeah. I went, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, like the tree. And John's like, yeah. And I'm like, that is what my marriage is. That crazy sentence made sense to him. All right. I'm going to take some white and come here in the little centers and kind of try to imply that there's a brightness in there. Dancing. Dancing. He's so cute. He's got to go with the chickens. So good.
Mm-hmm.
So good with the chickens. The chickens are going to love him. A little highlight top of the nose, under the little, and across the lip. Look at him pop and just become his fabulosity self. Just with a little love. A little stroke across, a little bit, a little bit. I'm loving it. John, I don't think there's even another thing to do but give it that final that final step. There we go. He's the smallest Sherpa signature in the world. It's like, trying to get him. Oh, isn't that nice?
Turned out really good.
That came out really good. I'm happy with that. So listen, guys, this is just a fun one. I hope your holidays, and whatever holiday you celebrate, or if you don't, it doesn't really matter. This is what I hope for you. I want your refrigerator to be full of food. You have shelter to be warm. Your kids to be okay. Your family to be okay. That's just my best wish for you, no matter where you are in the world. That's what I want for you. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I'll see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.